Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cool Your Seats podcast. I am your host, Mr. Scott, and today I would like to take a little time to talk to you all about friends. Now, I'm sure that you all have at least a basic idea of what you think friends are. Some of you might think that friends are people who you just conversate with from time to time. Others of you might think that the responsibilities of being a friend go much deeper. And really, I don't think anybody is wrong in that. I mean, my friend, you certainly couldn't be wrong about who your friends are or what you think other people's friends should be like, but, well, it's because of everybody's unique perspective on friendships and friends that I really think it's important that we start there. For instance, it's very, well, taxing, I feel, on each individual person in a friendship when your idea of what a friend is directly conflicts with what your friends think friends should be. And I think that makes for a very rocky groundwork upon which a friendly relationship is based off of. I'm not telling anybody to go out and specifically demand that people follow your way of thinking. I'm just saying it would be very ideal if anybody that you're interested in becoming friends with, you walk up to them and you talk to them about, what each expects from a friendship in the same way that you would asking a romantic partner what they would from your relationship. Because, frankly, friendships are like relationships. They're just a lot easier to get out of and a little bit more lenient on the rules. But overall, I do believe that a friendship is like a sort of romantic relationship, but purely platonic in its implications. And thus, a lot of what you should be doing for a friendship is a lot of what you should also be doing for a relationship, with a lot less added on for fluff and pillowy stuff. Like, for instance, it never hurts to compliment a friend, always reassuring them or having their back in rather difficult situations is, well, in my opinion at least, a very good and noble thing to do, and also the basis for a great relationship with your friend. I'm not entirely sure if anybody else shares that opinion, but, well, my friend, that's just what I think. You might have a completely different idea of what a friend is, and that's perfectly okay. In fact, that's the most wonderful thing in the world. That uniqueness in opinion and viewpoint is what makes you, you. And I really do respect and appreciate that. And that's what we need to preserve, is you being you. So, keep on with how you view friendships and relationships in general. Uh, However, I do believe that you should start talking with your friends about what each of you expect from your friendship. Unless, of course, you already have had this talk, or you've just been friends for so long that you both know already. But any new friends that you might have, it's definitely a very intelligent thing to ask them what they expect out of friendships and compare your friendship styles, much in the same way you'd compare a relationship style with a romantic partner. And speaking of new friends, I do believe that in this rising age of technology, it is both easier and harder to make new friends in the world. Now, I do believe that it is somewhat easier to make new friends in this new sort of rising world of technology because you have a lot more places to meet friends. Online chat rooms, forums, video game lobbies, or any other form of media, online or on your phone, are wonderful places to meet lifelong friends. However, the dubiousness of your relationship can be exemplified by the fact that you've never met in person before, and a lot of what your relationship is based off of could entirely be based off of lies that your online partner has made about themselves. But the problem being that meeting friends in real life is a lot harder now. You can't just walk up to anybody on the street and start a conversation, because a majority of the time, people are uncomfortable with that sort of behavior. And I completely understand it. I don't entirely enjoy it when people walk up to me and start blabbering on about their day. However, I do believe that it has made the process of finding new friends within the confines of our real world a lot more difficult. Of course, there are places for that sort of thing, such as, oh, I don't know, a convention where you know that at least someone there shares multiple interests in common with you. Just as well, places like bookstores, comic stores, card shops, things of that nature. You'll also find people in individual sections. I think that bookstores exemplify this the best. Now let me explain. When you walk into a bookstore, every single book in that store is categorized by their genre. You will see genres such as the kids section, which is often a very large chunk of the library, with a sort of play area and a lot of children's books. That in and of itself is organized by the other categories, although a lot less menial in their depictions. But within the rest of the bookstore, you have a lot of different sections. You have sections such as the nonfiction section, in which you are most likely to find autobiographies, documentaries, and other such types of books, books based on the real world. Now, a lot of this is also broken down into things such as textbooks, the How To for Dummies series, which I know that a lot of people are probably not accustomed to anymore, but it used to be a wonderful source of information. Then you also have the fiction section, which is filled with all sorts of genres, from sci-fi to fantasy to romance to young adult novels to dystopias, and everywhere in between. Now, meeting a friend in these places, I feel, is a lot easier than meeting a new friend anywhere else in the world, for a very simple fact that you are easily able to identify what people have similar interests to your own. Now, I'm sure you know, I'm sure you're all asking, but Mr. Scott, what do you mean? Well, you see, if you are searching, for instance, in my favorite section, the fantasy section, if you're searching through the fantasy section for a new book to read, and there is another human being in that section, you automatically know one very integral part of their personality. They love fantasy books. Now, this can lead very easily into a conversation, such as, oh, hey, you're also interested in fantasy books. Maybe you won't approach them like that, maybe you'll be a bit more awkward, or maybe you'll be a bit more profound. But it might lead to, hey, you're also into fantasy books. Well, why are you into fantasy books? What draws you to the genre? And from there, you two can start discussing why you love the genre. Maybe one of them uses it to escape from their lives. Maybe the other just loves the fantastical settings of a fantasy book. And from there, you guys can start filling in examples, and maybe you can find one book that fills both of your criterion for a good book. And from there, a friendship can blossom, and you can start meeting up more regularly, or you can start exchanging phone numbers, or you could even just, invite them to a Discord server that you are maybe participating in, and from there, you can be great friends with them. Is this going to happen very often? more than likely not. I mean, as I've already said, making friends offline is definitely a lot harder nowadays, but I am simply saying that it is an option. Just as well, there are a lot more ways to make friends, but those require a lot more extroversion, a lot more of a robust personality that I know that a lot of people lack, my friend. And one of those ways is just going to a coffee shop and people watching for somebody who seems to share an interest. Now, this is also one of the worst ways to make a friend, and I will state that wholeheartedly. Because for a lot of people, what a cafe or a coffee shop or whatever you would like to call them is about is relaxing, working, and drinking coffee. And in that specific mindset, making friends is not on the agenda. But I do feel that there are a lot of other people who will go into a cafe or a coffee shop or any other such place fully wanting to make friends. And it's about looking for those types of people and knowing what sort of people those are that can really lead to lifelong friendships. Now, I don't really have too much experience, so I can't give you a very strict guideline of what to look for, my friend, but I can tell you a rough general basis area around which you might want to be looking. If you notice that they are also people watching, but they're people watching without a book or a laptop in front of them, maybe they're just scrolling through their phone. They can't have both headphones in or anything, but if they're people watching, just like you are, then chances are they might also be looking for a friendship, and they're probably okay to go up and talk to. A general guideline, however, is never approach anybody that looks like they're actively working, never approach anybody that has both headphones in, and never approach anybody who is already actively engaged in a conversation. I'm sure then you'll just come off as creepy and trying to barge in, my friend, and that is not how we make friends. At least I don't think it is, my friend. Now, there are a lot of other things, about friendships, such as, well, meeting up with friends. I know for a fact that meeting up with another person, another human being, is a very, very difficult task. And it's not because neither of you wants to interact with another human being. And I can fully understand that mindset because I get it. Everyone has a busy schedule, my friend. I might not be available on a day that another person is available. And this can go back and forth for months and months of maybe we should see each other. Oh yes, let's try to make plans. And you try to make plans, but the closest date that you two have where you could feasibly meet up is suddenly swooped up last minute by some overbearing boss or an impromptu date that you might want more than the other person would want. And it's really a nightmare to get another person to meet up with. But don't despair. It's definitely not the right thing to just quit cold turkey and just decide that no, you aren't going to get to see your friend. I completely understand the frustration that comes with such well, a nightmarish position. I mean, you can't see your friend, all of your schedules are just messed up, and I get it. It's frustrating, it's annoying, and frankly, it's downright just annoying. There's no reason for it to be so difficult to meet up with another person, but it all comes down to the two people who want to meet up enforcing the schedule. Now, my friend, you might be asking, what do you mean enforcing the schedule? Is that even a thing that I can do? And yes, in most cases. For instance, There are a lot of things that you can plan around the date. You don't, or not date, I suppose it's just a meetup, but I'll call it a date for the sake of brevity. You can, for instance, refuse to schedule anything for that entire day, expecting that you will be spending that whole day with this particular friend, and that is the most wonderful thing that you could possibly do. But there are certain things which I get. They will refuse to be scheduled by you, and you can't schedule them around anything. In those instances, I think it is best to communicate to your friend exactly what time frame you both have, in which case you can agree to meet up for a time frame, and then you can move on from there. And that is, I think, one of the smartest decisions when faced with obstacles such as, workplaces that refuse to let you take the time off. Not because you weren't going to get the time off anyway, but because your boss is saying, "We are understaffed. We can't possibly afford to not have you that day. You need to come into work." I get it, and I understand your pain, and I sympathize with you. But you can always schedule your date around the work instead of trying to just meet up another day. Is it always feasible? No. I completely understand that it's not going to always be feasible for that to happen, but the attempt might make it seem a lot less frustrating when you realize just how many more options there are than seeing if a day is open, and if it isn't, canceling the date outright. It's frankly a lot more heartening to go, okay, we don't have this time frame to meet up, but which of these other time frames do you think would work best for you, my friend? And from there, meeting up accordingly. And I hate to be the sort of optimistic outlook, but let's face it, even a little bit of time spent with another human being whom you share interests with is a lot better than sitting home alone or hating your life just because you feel like you don't have any friends and you're alone in the world. You might not have that mindset, and that's the most wonderful thing I could ever wish upon another person. But I must say that it's a very shrinking mindset when we're talking about the grand scope of human beings. Not a lot of people nowadays have that mindset, and I completely understand it, but it's not a healthy mindset. And I believe that these meetups with friends, especially ones that are scheduled for time frames, are one of the better ways to overcome this feeling of loneliness and downtroddenness in the world. You don't have to agree with me, my friend, but I want to give specifically you, alternatives to what you may think is a hopeless situation that frankly is never going to happen. It will. Eventually you will have a friend that you can meet up with, and there are ways to make friends that you might not have thought of, especially in the ways of meeting friends out in public. I understand that you might be more inclined to meet friends at an online chat room, a forum, or a video game lobby, and those are wonderful places to make friends, but you can't meet up with those friends, and your schedule is entirely at the mercy of whatever is happening in your lives, and you will never be able to really see them in real life unless there is something major going on in your area, such as a concert or a convention, in which case you might be able to convince your friend to come out there for that occasion. Other than that, You are entirely at the mercy of finding a friend in the real world, in which case you just have to look for the signs. And speaking of signs, this episode of Cool Your Seats is sponsored by StoreSignPros.com. If you are a business owner of any variety and you are in need of a sign, any type of sign in any color, style, with any text, StoreSignPros.com is your one-stop shop for any and all solutions. Their simple-to-use interface allows you to very quickly, concisely, and cleanly get across any sign in your imagination. Any graphics, any style, any color, any size, any variety of sign that you could possibly need, StoreSignPros.com is your go-to. Go to StoreSignPros.com and use the special promo code CYS10 for 10% off your purchase of any sign in their shop. That's right, you can get 10% off any purchase of any sign in the StoreSigns.pro or StoreSignsPro.com, shop when you use promo code CYS10. C cool Y your S seats 10 on StoreSignPros.com for 10% off. We here at Cool Your Seats, and especially I, Mr. Scott, would like to thank StoreSign Pros for sponsoring this video, and now back to the podcast. So my friend, as I'm sure that you've learned over the course of this podcast, there are many different ways to make friends, and also there are a lot of ways to meet up with friends, and friends, I do believe, are one of the most wonderful parts of life, and especially being a social species, as we are human beings, it is a very integral thing to be friends with others of our species. A way to subvert friendship, I suppose, is to get a pet, a dog, a cat, any other variety of pet. However, I must state that if you are thinking of getting a pet, please, I implore you, with any and every fiber of my being, my friend, research the pet that you are attempting to purchase before adopting the pet, because if you do not, you will end up making the pet's life misery, and you yourself will be the only benefactor in your relationship, and that is the worst thing you could ever do to another living creature. However, for those of us who are either A, unable to get a pet due to restrictions on the part of maybe where they live or what conditions they are made to live under, there are friends, human friendships, and it's one of the most beautiful things in the world, really. You and another person of common interest, although sometimes conflicting viewpoints on the world, are, well, friends. You are two people who have agreed to overcome your differences for the sake of companionship and overall getting rid of a feeling of loneliness. And that is the most wonderful thing in the universe. Much the same way that looking up at the stars and wondering if we are not alone in the universe is wonderful, knowing that you have a friend is absolutely perfect. However, my friend, there are still many things about friendships that I'm sure we need to go over, such as, well, talking to friends. There is a typical guideline that I'm sure a lot of people have heard, which is if you want to keep a friend or any form of relationship, do not talk to them about three things: politics, religion, and, well, I do believe that the third one is depending on who you talk to, but for me, I do believe that that thing is, well, race. Not because, there's like particularly, it's not because I'm particularly racist or because other people are particularly racist, but I feel that discussing race as a third person thing, talking about race with another person and trying to dissect all the little intricacies of it, really just, it disconnects everybody from one simple truth. We're human. You're human. I'm human. I hope I haven't checked recently, but I am human. You are human. And when we come together, we are humankind. You can shorten it to mankind, you can do whatever you want with the word humankind, but it all boils down to us being of the same species, in the same family, from the same kingdom. And that is the most wonderful thing about all of this. Despite any difference we might have due to genetics or anything beyond our control, we can make a conscious effort to overcome any of that. Regardless, my friend, there are a couple of taboos in conversations and socializing with friends that we should all not tread on, and talking about religion and politics especially are some of the worst things that I believe that anybody can do to a friendship. Not because you need to, not because you don't want to know your friend's political beliefs, and not because you don't want to know your friend's religion, but because more times than not, political and religious discussions lead to argument and debate. Argument and debate can ruin friendships if they're brought up too often. And while I'm more than happy to have friendly debate, it becomes there's a lot of animosity in debates of political and religious nature due to feuds that have been happening for hundreds of years that, though we all wish we could get over it, we never will. So, until there is a point in time where we might be able to get over such meaningless hurdles, we have to avoid talking about those things if we want to build a lasting friendship. So, just don't talk about them. That's the simplest form of advice. Don't talk about them. Dodge questions about them if you really want. And if you want to go to the extreme, counter a question with a question. Be the only kind of witness that really scares people. A hostile one. Granted, that might just equally lead to a breakdown in friendships, but, well, there's no guarantees that talking with them about what their chosen subject material, I'm sorry for so many stutters, talking with them about their chosen subject material might lead to an equally harsh end. Regardless, it is absolutely wonderful that, we have these opportunities to make friends with other people and share our experiences, and to soil it with a couple of conversation subjects, it makes no sense to me. But my friend, I'm sure you have a differing opinion, and, well, if you have any ideas for, say, what conversation subjects for friends you might find taboo, or even ways to subvert or get around that feeling of, friendship ending proportions, please, I implore you, leave it in the comments. And to everyone who might also leave their opinions in the comments, be friendly about it. I implore everyone, please, be friendly about it. I do not want to get rid of the comments section, and I don't think any of you want me to get rid of the comments section. I want to build the friendly community that the rest of you would love to have and see in the world. So, stay friendly with each other. Who knows? You might just meet your next friend down there. But, my friend, I'm afraid we must be drawing the episode to a close soon, so I'm sure you all know what happens next. For those of you who are new, this is the part where I give you all a scenario that you get to listen to, and you can carry this scenario, this place of calming with you until the next Cool Your Seat podcast, or until you think of your own. Let it be a source of happiness. Let it be a place of comfort. Let it be the place that you need it to be. And until next time, I am Mr. Scott. Okay, my friend, imagine this. You're laying down under a giant oak tree, a sprawling example of nature's beauty and wonders, casting a delicate but lovely shade over your body. You're laying up against the trunk, sitting comfortably. The grass, you can feel it across, well, whatever you want to be sitting on the grass with. But you can feel the grass, you can smell the warm, crisp air, that wonderful smell of spring or fall, autumn as I like to call it, whatever you prefer, any of your favorite seasons. You're sitting in the grass under the oak tree. There's a light breeze flowing by you. You feel it tickle your skin from time to time, but for the most part it's just a pleasant background noise. In the distance there's a park full of children. You can hear their occasional laughter and screams coming out, leaking over, noise pollution if you will on your day. But overall you're sitting there, relaxed comfortably, and just slowly drifting off to sleep. Now, I'm not sure if you're ready to go to sleep or not, but regardless of the matter, it's happening anyway. You are sitting there under that oak tree, dozing in and out of consciousness, letting the soft sounds of the breeze, the distant sounds of happiness and joy, laughter and screams fill the air around you, and you succumb to nature's whims. You lay there soaking in the nice, warm environment with the occasional light breeze fluttering past you, and really just doze. Maybe you've decided to take a nap under this tree. Your intentions for coming there, they don't matter. What matters is the here and now. The tree, the breeze, the laughter, the sun, and you. And it's in that moment that I would like you all to stay. From here until the next episode, or even until you really feel like letting go of it. But until then, my name is Mr. Scott. This has been the 4th episode of the Cool Your Seat podcast. Feel free to subscribe or leave a rating down below. I appreciate any and everybody who does such things, and if I have the opportunity and you all set your subscription settings to public, I will give you all a nice little shout out, if you will, a call out in my next video. Until then, I am Mr. Scott. This is the Cool Your Seat podcast, and I bid you all farewell.